The nature of the meeting. Honorable Lonzi.
No, thanks, Chair. I don't think I'll be long because I was in and out throughout the meeting. I want to greet yourself, Chair, members of the committee, the leadership of the university, the unions, and the leadership of students. Just a few questions I have, Chair, and then I think the other ones will follow by writing. Of the 400 million student debt that the university is having, how many students are you withholding certificates of, if that is something that is practiced by the university?
Thank you, Chair and Member. Yes, there is a number that I share with the colleagues this morning. I think it's about 5,435. These are the students who have graduated, but we didn't give them the degree certificates. But I also share with members the interventions that we do to make sure that we have this number, which were a number of iterations that we shared, so that we're able to revisit that. But the number is 5,435.
Thanks, VC. The follow-up question, maybe the CFO will advise. In your books, there's a certain debt that you allocate it or describe it as a bad debt. And with my very little accounting knowledge, maybe you'll advise CFO. That is almost debt that you've accepted in accounting terms that you won't necessarily be able to recover this particular debt. So I'd be interested have you quantified that debt, and also have you then quantified of the 5,435,000 students whose certificates and degrees you are withholding because they owe the university money, how much in that particular number would you say now falls under the category of bad debt or irrecoverable debt? In other words, even yourself as a university and an accountant, you've cracked your numbers, and you can see that we've been chasing this young person for about 10 or 15 years now, or 5 years, or even more than that. And clearly they've got no capacity to pay back this particular money. Does it serve the university to withhold the degree and the certificate of this young person? Because we may actually find that the very key that they need to go and unlock employment opportunities so that they can be able to have an income, if we were to argue that they wanted to enter some form of payment arrangement with the university, is this thing that we're withholding from them. So I wonder if the university has characterized these students.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're quite correct in your question. But how we, in terms of governance, fiduciary responsibilities, from time to time we are able to take, certain requests to council to write off certain debts, where as my name, we believe that, we're not going to be able to recover that. But of these 5,435, these are recent students, and the debt is not prescribed. We are able to really communicate with the student for us to be able to really recover that funding. But our interest, Chair, is not just to write off these debts, it's to engage with funders to fund this, because we are robbing a university in a way. We are demanding that we must provide service for that, this and that, but you don't have income for you to do this auditoria that you want. So we must recover as much as we can so that we really begin to provide spaces that are conducive for teaching and learning. So our interest is not just to write off, but to engage with funders to make sure that students do pay their outstanding fees. And also from time to time, we engage in a number of interventions where we go to raise funding to settle for these degree students who don't have their certificates.
No, then my last question on debt, before I run to the other ones. How effective has it been to withhold the certificates of students? Like what if you were to quantify the success rate as a debt collection mechanism? How effective would you have said that when we withhold the degree and the certificate of a student, we incentivize them to pay back this money? Is there a view that the university has on that point?
Yeah, what I said earlier in the morning for holding these certificates, it doesn't preclude them from employment. We are able to send this very same certificate to the employer if they've raised employment. And this is per the DET agreement some few years ago, which Dr. Naledi Pando, then when she was a minister, she made us to have that arrangement. So no student will be disadvantaged to lose a job or the opportunity that they've received because they don't have this degree certificate. The employer is able to engage
sorry
us.
to interject, VC. So for certain professional degrees, I don't know, maybe some may not necessarily be offered here, but the professional bodies don't give students recognition if they don't have their degree in hand. I could make maybe an example. If you look at engineering, the university may very well say, we're going to share the results of the students with the company, but they won't be able to be registered as an engineer with the engineering board or engineering council of South Africa if they don't necessarily have that degree. And if that is the case, you'll agree with me, VC, that it does negatively impact the students from being able to progress in their careers.
No, you're quite correct.
No, thanks,
But
VC.
for the science, professional degrees like your accounting, your engineering, we don't have that problem because they are funded by those science, committees, so they pay those certificates.
No, thanks, VC. How many applications did the university get for first-time learners this year? How many spaces are available in the university? You forgive me, I'm sure you would have probably presented on this much earlier when I was still running around. I apologize. I just want to have it on my note.
Yeah, we received 140,000 applications, and we got about 3,720 available spaces.
All right, thanks, VC. The other question is, I believe you also made mention to it, that the part of the challenges that would have led to the university not being able to deal with some of the problems in student accommodation is when the NSFAS took over that particular system. But am I correct to say you have now been given back those responsibilities, or are there certain private accommodations that NSFAS is still taking care of?
Yeah, it's still a very fluid space or environment for me. 2024 sent us a circular to say, don't worry about this, we'll do it ourselves. And then when in February, hey, you do it. It's a process that you have to run. That takes a lot of money, a lot of efforts. You don't want to do it piecemeal. Now for 2025, we know we're doing it. But just I think, if my memory serves me well, the chair of NSFAS board, announced to say, hey, we're going to take over accommodation from universities. So we don't know what is going to happen next year. So we're in a state of flux. That's how I call it. Because you don't have certainties where you can plan. Things keep on changing.
Oh, thanks, VC. The other point, one of the big fights we had with NSFAS, particularly in relation to the pilot project, was these 4 middlemen companies that they were using to process payments. So government gives NSFAS money. Instead of NSFAS giving it directly to either the landlords or the universities, they run it through these dodgy middlemen companies which we don't know, and then the money is then paid out. When we then interact with NSFAS, NSFAS says to us, actually, the reason why we took over some of the payments from institutions of higher learning is because the institutions themselves were engaged in the same process. So we fight with NSFAS because we say, NSFAS, why are you not paying this money directly? Why do you have to give it to some third-party payment provider that takes a percentage from the money of government that belongs to students and then gives students money that is not 100% what is from the government? So I'd be interested to find out here at the University of Venda, is there a third-party payment scheme or some middleman that the university uses in order to pay money directly into the accounts of students? And if that is the case, do they take a service fee or a service percentage? And how much is that service percentage? Or if they don't, they don't. So for example, if NSFAS says, I'm just making an example, 1,000 is due to a student, is it 1,000 that enters the account of student? or is it 985 because this third party must also take from the money that government has made available to students?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I will sort of give you the response as I understood it here. When we started taking over from NSFAS, we were doing it ourselves as a university. So we receive money from NSFAS, we pay direct to student, and we're not charging any monies. If it's 1,000 rand, 1,000 rand go to the student. But as you grow as a university, you realize it's a very big job, that you are bound to make mistakes. The reason why we are now busy with the closeout report that has not been completed is because of those outer years that we're struggling with. So I think 2-3 years ago, COO, we engaged the services of Fundi to come and assist us in that particular space. And the payments that we make, are they covered by the university or NSFAS? They're covered by the university. So we pay Fundi to administer these kind of bursaries.
Last one, Sorcha. How much do you pay Fundi?
I might have to give you the figures. I don't have them by the head. I might have to provide that if I have to do that in writing.
Okay. And then when you share that with us, VC, I just want to be sure here. So you are saying to us, if the circular of NSFAS says a student is supposed to receive 1,500, it is 1,500 that reflects on the account, not 1,000, 4,000, because you as the university, you absorb that service fee. Can you get that commitment? Because that was our fight with NSFAS. And we don't want to fight with NSFAS because they are busy taking money that is not meant for them, only for universities and colleges to do the same thing. So if there is that assurance, I'd be very happy and quite impressed by that. But I'd still want to know how much Fundi is charging, but that's a later discussion. What is important for me is that students are receiving what is due to them.
We'll provide that information. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just to correct that. It's not 1,000, 4,000 and something. It's he meant 1,400 and something. So remember, we had a president in this country who, for a long time, could not deal with the issue of numbers. I will not be asking questions, BC, because I'm quite satisfied. I mean, the walkabout, honestly speaking, speaks to what we need to do, Dr. Sokik, when we give these institutions the CIG grant. What we've seen here is what we want to see across. I know even where we're going tomorrow, they've done extremely well on student accommodation. The buildings, they've built well. So before we close, I'm going to give Chair of Council just to respond to one or two. And they are closing, and then I'm going to close, Chair.
No.